Hello, my name is Eric Follick. I would like to read to you a little essay that I wrote a few years ago that is sort of a proof of the facts of the immortality of the soul and of reincarnation. Two very important facts that are really obvious facts of reality, but aren't so obvious to everybody nowadays. So I'll read a little demonstration about them from one perspective. Okay. The original essay can be found in print form, or the original in print form at www.aumaiosllc.com. That's E-U-M as in Mary, AIOSLLC.com. Again, aumaiosllc.com. And the way it was done in print, it had a few footnotes, and I'll try to sort of add those footnotes in as I read the text. One of them has some bibliographic listings that you can see more easily on the written written page at aumaiosllc.com. So here is a very brief a priori demonstration of the immortality of the soul and of reincarnation by Eric S. Follick. An understanding of the immortality of the soul or self and reincarnation is among the very most basic elements of a genuine spiritual life. Reincarnation has been selected here in this essay as the most common and standard term at present for the process of repeated births and deaths. Some other systems, such as Buddhism, may object to the term and the use of the term soul, self, etc., but I think it'll be clear what we're talking about. Other terms are rebirth, transmigration, metempsychosis, metinsomatosis, and in Hebrew, gigul, though I'm not sure I pronounced the Hebrew correctly at all. Perhaps the best terms might be the Greek palingenesis and the Sanskrit punarbhava, or punarbhava, both of which mean again becoming. Although a basic feature of the Weltanschauung, that is the worldview of what I call the Indo-Hellenistic systems, and those at least in part derived from them. By Indo-Hellenistic systems, I mean Platonism, Orphism, Pythagoreanism, Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, maybe Sikhism and Manichaeism and things like that. And despite their being, that is, immortality of the soul and reincarnation, being in fact obvious, these concepts do not seem to be acceptable to many moderns today, in this modern, secular, brave new world of industrial modern society. There are perhaps two reasons for this that readily suggest themselves. The first is the dominance of the Abrahamic systems in their belief structures, as well as the influence of these on Western thinkers, even if such influence is not recognized or acknowledged. There's some notable exceptions to this because, for example, in the Jewish mystical systems of Kabbalah and Hasidism, and I think likely in Hellenic Judaism also, they included reincarnation in some form at least. And also in the modern West, the philosophical system of J. Ellis McTaggart, in the earlier part of the 20th century in England, I think Cambridge, also included reincarnation as an essential element. The second is, in these dark times, the dominance of realism, positivism, reductionism, materialism in the philosophical sense, physicalism, naturalism, etc. Although materialism, which I'll take as the convenient term for that whole phenomena, although materialism is in fact extremely implausible, For one thing, it denies the existence of the very entity constructing the theory, and certainly requires as much, if not more, justification than any other theory of reality. Actually, a lot more. It's the most incoherent and illogical system. It seems to be considered by its adherents today as self-evident and not requiring explanation. Further, the general, quote, intelligentsia, who do not actually think philosophically or examine their assumptions, accept this position simply because it is the outlook of the age, and I might add is the outlook that's sort of really required by modern industrial society to keep the production going and the march of technology going, and so forth. The present discussion will, for brevity, assume an idealist position, the exact opposite of those positions, as understood. The reader who requires a refutation of materialism and an establishment of the idealist understanding may be referred to various works of the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when some people could still think, which not too many people can today, I don't think, for this purpose. Here's just, I listed just a very few of the books that I had in mind, and I'll just read the few examples, and you could again see the detailed citations at aumioslc.com. John Caird, An Introduction to the Philosophy of Religion, Glasgow, James McElhouse and Sons, 1901. George Plimpton Adams, Idealism and the Modern Age, New Haven, Yale University Press, 1919. Viscount Haldane, Viscount is a title actually, Human Experience, A Study of Its Structure, New York, E.P. Dutton and Company, 1926. And F.H. Cleobury, God, Man, and the Absolute, London, Hutchinson and Company. My copy has no date, but it's around the late 1940s. And actually, those, like I say, are just a few examples. There's really many works of about that time, late 19th and early 20th century, before idealism was squelched. The idealistic premise or axiom that will, for purposes of this demonstration, be taken as granted is as follows. There are and can be no objects without subjects, and no subjects without objects. The self or center of experience and its object world are both aspects of a single reality of knowledge or experience. They are logically distinguishable, but cannot and do not occur separately, independently, and in isolation. It is not meaningful to speak or think of an object or event existing without any subject to experience it. This premise being granted, the conclusion of immortality of the soul follows simply. For the object or event of death to occur, there must be a subject or self or mind or center of experience to experience it. We're talking here about an individual's actual experience of death, not an external observer merely having the sense experience of observing the destruction of an external body, which is a totally different thing. For an object or event to be experienced, it must be experienced in its entirety, through its beginning, middle, and end. Otherwise, it is not the object or event that is experienced, but another different object or event partial with respect to the first one. In other words, the object must be present and exist on both sides, so to speak, of the object or event. Thus, for the event of death to occur, for it to be meaningful to speak of an individual experiencing death, the soul or self or mind or center of experience must be present through or around or on both sides of the event, and thus must be present or continue after the event of death. Since death by definition is the only event that can constitute the destruction or discontinuance of the soul, and since the soul must continue after death in order to actually experience it, however many times and whatever intervals it occurs, the soul is immortal. At this point, it may be objected, particularly by conventional Abrahamists, that while it has been proved that the soul is immortal, the fact of reincarnation has not been demonstrated. There could be only one occurrence of death, and the soul may then just continue forever in the state following that. Here it is necessary to observe that the whole discussion and the whole matter of death pertains only to the lowest level realm of reality, the level of soul and individual souls or cells in space-time. At the level of the divine mind thought, there is only the one divine mind, as the only subject with the real beings as the only object, distinguishable but not separate to the extent of the realm of soul. There is neither time nor space, and only life, no, not death at all. Further, at the level of the absolute itself, subject and object are not distinguishable at all, and there is only absolute unitary knowledge, beyond even eternity, life, and being. At the level of soul that we are discussing, for individuated souls to exist as such in space-time, they must be associated in some sense with body and matter. Not body or matter in a physical sense, but in the sense of experiencing a certain set of changing sense perceptions with an apparently given means of perception. That's what being an individual soul living in space-time is. It is an inherent property of this realm that all things in it, the whole possible object world of the soul, change and are subject to coming into being, existing for a while, and then decaying and being destroyed. This includes all possible, quote, body, all possible sets and means of sense perceptions that a soul could have. That's the very reason, that's the very nature of being, why there is time and space, and that this level is the descent into time and space, and so there is constantly one thing after another and change. The soul itself is sort of amphibious, the lower soul changing with its objects, the higher soul remaining always unchanging and connected to or part of the higher realms. Thus, as long as we remain in the realm where it is meaningful to speak of the lives and deaths of individual souls, it is not possible that a given soul could retain a given body or perception set indefinitely. If it did, it would not have a body or perception set. It wouldn't be in the realm of space, time, and individuality. Each body or perception set must eventually cease, and other ones must arise, again, so that there could be something as space and time. So each individuated soul must experience a series of bodies or perception sets and lives and births and deaths, so reincarnation is a fact. The details of this process, the rise and fall of souls to higher and lower perception sets, and the means of a given soul escaping from individuation and the whole cycle to return, in quotes, to the higher unified state are beyond the scope of this short demonstration. Of course, those are topics of the greatest importance and interest, and the very thing of our whole existence here and our striving to be free in our spiritual practice. But in this little demonstration, it could take volumes to go into all of that, so we leave it aside right now. Thus, the immortality of the soul and the fact of reincarnation have been demonstrated. This a priori proof is far more reliable than any sort of attempt to ascertain the facts of such matters through allegedly empirical observation or appeal to revealed texts, which are, after all, just more sense phenomena appearing in the object world of the soul itself, and incapable of determining the structure of the actual overall unity of experience or knowledge that includes the mind or soul and its objects. It is how the phenomenal world is actually created in the very, and inherent in that very process is the very facts of reincarnation and immortality of the soul. This demonstration is, at least in substance, if not in expression, not at all new, but goes back at least to the divine Plato. It has been stated here in the form of ordinary, quote, logical reasoning, and may perhaps be attacked at that level, but it is really intended as a contemplative experience-based proof. Genuine spiritual understanding can only be attained by attempting the conjunction of the individual mind with the divine mind through contemplative asceticism. If you don't really know for sure what death is, then you don't, in fact, know what life is. Let me read that final sentence of my essay again. If you don't really know for sure what death is, then you don't, in fact, know what life is. That's the end of the essay. If you understand the very process that our life is here, what it actually is, what it really means to be here and to exist in space-time, and you understand that directly through your own experience, through tremendous effort and contemplation, then you, and living a renunciate life and all the things that go with contemplation, or have to, then you'll understand what death is. They're really part of the same process. And otherwise, think about it. There's one thing you can't deny, that for sure we're all heading for death as a definite end. Whether in the next 5 minutes or the next 50 years, we don't really know, but we're surely headed for that end. And even if technology could make us live for 100 million years, we'd still be headed towards that end. 5 minutes or 5 billion years compared to the whole of time, neither is very long. So this is the one thing you're headed for. If you don't understand for sure what's going to happen and how to be prepared for it, not just because what someone tells you, but because you know through the whole way you've lived your life and your own spiritual practice, then you're kind of not prepared for that most serious journey that we're all going to take. Anyway, thank you very much for listening. Bye-bye.